Today we are talking about 3 big mistakes that brand owners make when they register their trademark. I'm Curt Lockhart. I am a trademark attorney and I help brand owners create value for their business by protecting their trademark assets. So the 3 big mistakes that brand owners make when they file their trademark applications are: number 1, listing the wrong owner on the trademark application. So generally, a trademark is used in a business's branding and advertising. And so if there's a registered business entity that actually owns and uses the mark, it's generally a good idea to list the entity itself as the owner of the trademark and not one of the business owners themselves individually. Often you'll see one of the business owners list themselves as an individual as the owner of the trademark. And the reason why that's generally not a good idea is, first, it just for administrative simplicity. As your business grows, you tend to develop these trademark assets, and you'll kind of grow a portfolio of trademarks. And if you've got them all organized under the umbrella ownership of the business entity itself, if you were to ever sell the business in the future, it would be much easier to transfer those assets to the new owner through the sale than having to figure out which ones are owned by the business, which ones are owned by one of the individual owners of the business, and just makes it a little bit more complicated to make that transfer if you're ever to sell the business. But also, one of the big reasons is it opens you up for potentially being the trademark for being challenged by a third party for non-use. So if a third party needs to get around your trademark, maybe they're using a similar mark and your registration is blocking theirs or something like that, and they need to cancel it. One thing they may look to do is look at the ownership, and if it's listed as an individual versus and a business is actually the one that's using the mark, they may challenge it for non-use and say, hey, well, the individual owner here is listed as the owner, but really this business uses it. And so if you don't have a license agreement in place that authorizes the business to use that mark through a license agreement, then it could potentially be subject to cancellation. So number 1 is listing the wrong owner on the trademark application. Number 2, including a trademark symbol with your trademark when you file the application. So the trademark symbols, the 2 main trademark symbols are the TM symbol and then the capital R with a circle around it. And so you don't want to include either of those symbols when you file your trademark application because they're not part of the mark themselves and they're not registrable. And so when you submit your trademark application, you need to submit the trademark exactly as only what's included as the trademark. And so the reason you don't want to include those 2 is because actually this capital R with a circle around it is reserved for registered trademarks. And so if you don't have a trademark registration, it's technically a violation of the federal law to include that on your trademark when it's not registered. And so, you're technically committing fraud by submitting a trademark with the capital R with a circle around it before it's been registered. So number 2, including trademark symbols with your trademark application. And number 3 is using the wrong specimen. And so when part of the trademark process, when you file a trademark application, you have to submit proof that you're using the trademark in commerce. And so the standard for use in commerce is very specific. And so part of that proof of use in commerce includes submitting a specimen that shows exactly how you're using it. And so often brand owners will submit like a screenshot from their website or maybe a social media page or something like that just shows their name or their trademark and how they're using it that way. But often these won't work for proof of use in commerce because they don't show exactly how the mark's being used with the goods or service that are listed in the trademark application. And so it's important that when you submit a specimen to show proof of use in commerce, that the trademark, exactly as it shows in the trademark application, whether that's a word or a logo, but the mark itself has to be shown exactly like it does in the trademark application. And it needs to be shown exactly with the goods and services that are listed in the application, and how the mark is being used as a source identifier for the sale of those goods and services. And so it's there needs to be a very specific connection between the mark itself and the sale of goods and services. And so number 3 is submitting a specimen that doesn't work. And so any of these issues could potentially be grounds for refusal of your trademark application. And so if you don't want your trademark application being refused by the trademark office, make sure you list the proper owner, you don't include any trademark symbols, and that you have a proper specimen of showing proof of use in commerce. If you have any specific questions about trademarks in general, or the trademark registration process, or you want some help with your trademark application, I'll leave a link to my calendar in the description, so you can just go ahead and grab a time that's convenient for you, and you can talk directly to me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'll also leave my email address, and so you can feel free to shoot me an email with any questions. I also have a guide, 10 things to know before you file your trademark application. So if you want some more information or dive a little bit deeper into some of these topics, I'd be happy to send that to you as well. Just let me know.